If you enjoy what we do on these podcasts, please go to mwpnews.com. There you can see articles about some of the movies we've seen, some things that we don't talk about on podcasts, and links to ways you can support the show. Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. In this case, I'll say we're gonna kind of stick to that title a little bit, because I think there are some things, despite the fact the play is 20 years old, that could be considered spoilers. We're gonna talk broadly about it, and then we will go into the more spoilery territory. But look, I did not expect to enjoy this movie as much as I did. It's not that, like, and people who listen to this know I have a deep, like, not love, I would say, but I have an appreciation for musicals and movie musicals, and like La La Land, I blew that to death, and, you know, I really enjoyed last year the 1-2 punch of Wonka and The Color Purple, and that was very enjoyable, and In the Heights, and I don't know why I went into this with such low expectations. Maybe it was the fact that the marketing campaign was annoying the fuck out of me, like the Target commercials with Cynthia Erivo. I really should look up how to pronounce her name. Annoyed the crap out of me, so it was like, I don't want to, I was like, let's just get this over with. And then earlier today, I do this every once in a while. I look to see what the what the seating situation is in the theater that I bought tickets to. And when I was sitting there, I was kind of like, okay, so where are we? Oh my God, it's tied. Sorry if you hear me periodically comment on a basketball game. Albany women's basketball is playing Syracuse right now, and it is tied. So we'll be keeping an eye on that throughout this. I have it very low playing in the background. Perk of having a lav mic on my chest. But look, I think that I think this is, watching this movie now, there's a 50-50 chance that this movie is either it's either going to be this year's Barbie, or it's going to be this year's Wonka in terms of Academy Award recognition. I don't think it's going to miss out on Best Original Song. I don't think there was any original songs. I don't think that's a concern here in the way it was at Wonka. But Wonka got snubbed in every technical category. Now, I do still think in my heart of hearts Dune is going to take it home. But we'll see. Now, and one other thing I want to address, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but I need to get this off my chest. I do not ever want to hear a fucking word from these dork theater kids like, oh, look at how people react to fucking Spider-Man screenings. Because let me tell you, I was there opening night for Spider-Man No Way Home, and I was there opening night for Avengers Endgame, and I was there, I was there for Infinity War. I was like, I was there opening night for Star Wars. I have not been in a theater so annoyingly loud as the theater I was just in. Not because of singing, because that I expected, and that was part of the reason why I anticipated. I intended to switch screenings. So I'm like, this is a packed theater, there's going to be singing, and there was surprisingly very little singing. I'm fairly certain Defying Gravity brought the guy next to me to orgasm, but I can't guarantee that one way or the other. But regardless, the point is, like, I don't want to hear anyone talk about that, because the moment, I don't know what the song is called, but when they're in the Emerald City, and you get that thing where it's like they're telling the history of the wizard, and the history, like, this is the info dump song of all the information you need for the third act to make it make sense. Like, that the two women who are singing there are, and I haven't seen Wicked, I haven't seen the play, I haven't seen anything like I haven't listened to the cast album, I haven't read the books or anything like that, but what's it called, I know Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth were the originators on Broadway. Like, I'm familiar with that. Like, it's one of those things, like, there are some Broadway things that are just kind of ingrained in you when you live in the New York metro area all your life. It's just like, that's just something that's kind of like, it's kind of like information you're born with. But to that extent, to that said, the idea, holy fuck, they won. But to that end, when they showed up on screen, it was louder than the 3 Spider-Men showing up. It was louder than the portal scene. It was the loudest I've ever been in a movie theater. And so, I don't want to hear jack shit when Sonic the Hedgehog 3 comes out and people lose their shit when that girl gets shot, because that's going to happen. It's one of the things where it's like, I don't understand, and like, the whole thing with the guy next to me is like, it's like, I don't know, like, I haven't seen the play, again, have not seen the play. I know that Defying Gravity is coming. Like, I know that, and number one, because I was reading up on the movie beforehand, and like, I knew that like it was split into 2 parts before I went in, partially because I keep a detailed release log, so that way I can keep track of my schedule. So I'm like, alright, so this is Wicked Part 1. It was referred to as Wicked Part 1 for a long time. Then they cut it. Unlike Dune, where it was kind of like, Dune is coming out here, and then it's like, oh, surprise, Dune Part 2, Dune Part 1 when you see it in theaters. It's kind of the same thing, but, it is what it is. And I'm watching this movie, and we're getting to the end, and I had heard him say, like, we split it in 2 because we felt that Defying Gravity is too strong of a moment to go out on, to not go out on that. So I'm like, alright, okay, sure. And I will agree. Having not seen Part 2 and not knowing what goes on in the second half, I will agree that is a very strong moment to go out on. Almost to the point that I do not need Part 2. But that's neither here nor there. This guy started loud sobbing as it was getting to that. And when I say, I've talked about the guy next to me in The Force Awakens several times, the guy who was rocking back and forth when they killed Han Solo. This was worse. This guy who was not up in the aisle dancing, but like dancing in his seat and flailing his arms around, and I'm like, dude, calm the fuck down. I think that, back on track, the production design is great. I think Ariana Grande does a very good job playing Glinda. And I think that the thing is that she does very well with that, too. She plays, like, kind of a spoiled, cunty character, and she does that almost to a degree that I don't know if she's acting, which congratulations to her, or not, I guess. I'm sorry if I insulted. But she does that well. I think Cynthia Erivo is very good. I didn't know she could sing that well. And she did a great job. I enjoyed the movie a lot more than I thought it would, and I think that, like, the worst part about it is that to be continued. Because, like, let's get into spoiler territory now. So basically, like, one of the small things kind of interwoven into the movie is this idea that, like, the animals are able to talk in this time period, but the wizard is taking that away, and the wizard is trying to turn the animals into the bad guys with the intent that you need to have a bad guy to bring people together, and that's his problem, is he needs all of Oz to be united. And he's like, well, where I come from, the real world, he knows there's no greater, there's no greater way to bring people together than to give them a good enemy to unite around fighting. And things being what they are, I mean, I think he's not entirely wrong there. It works pretty well, and we got 4 years of Trump coming, so clearly if you make people afraid of something, then yeah, people will agree and get together behind you because you think you can stop them. So, it works. I'm not doubting the wizard and his ability here. I think he's smart to do that. And I think the thing is too, it's like, so that's his plan. And this whole thing is about him trying to find this witch who can help him, create the vehicle around, doing that. all of that tracks for me. I understand all of that. I think all of that makes a lot of sense within the logic of the movie. I don't think we necessarily need to see that plot resolved, because what I'm here to see as a viewer, and I'm sure there are people who are going to tell me, no, this really cool thing happens in the second act. You have to see the second half. You have to see the second half. Sure, you're probably right. Maybe something cool happens there. But at the end of the day, we've reached the point where this character has now made the transition, and we've answered the question posited at the beginning of the movie. The question posited at the beginning of the movie is, are you born wicked, or is wickedness thrust upon you? That's the exact verbatim of the question that is very specifically and explicitly asked at the beginning of the movie. At this point, we have that answer. And at this point, we know what happens to, the Wicked Witch of the West. We know what happens to her, because we know she ends up dying. The movie does not really do anything about that. Like, it very much opens with, the witch is dead. Dorothy killed the witch. We're good now. Let's move on. Like, that whole thing is, okay, that all tracks for me. I get all of that. Now, my thing is, it's like, do I need to see anything further from here? It's like, well, I don't think so. Like, I don't think there's anything more this story can tell me that I'm like, I need to see the continuation of this. Like, it ending where it does and her going off, it's like, great. And now we now know what happens. And we don't need to see anything further, because it's not even like they're leaving it in a place where, they're still friends. And it's not like we're watching a story where it's like, Glinda is going to do what she can to try and save her. Like, maybe that's what happens, but again, and maybe it is the movie and the play does it better, and maybe the book does it better than both, because the book will have more time to do that, but I don't get the sense that Glinda did anything that she does from around the second half on, from the dance, at the party on, for any reason beyond the fact that she thinks it'll help her move her own career forward. Because what Glinda wants is, she wants to be a sorcerer. And Michelle Yeoh doesn't think she has it in her to be a sorcerer. I forgot the character's name. So what she does is she tries, like, I forgot her name. Ephebra? Whatever. The Wicked Witch of the West doesn't have it. She has the power, so she sticks her neck out for Glinda, and Glinda gets in that way. And from that point on, I don't get the sense that Glinda's doing anything because she truly cares about the other one. I don't get that sense, which is a bit of a problem for me, where it's like, that could be the only draw-in for a part 2. It's like, okay, she's going to try and tragically fail to save her friend. The way she's characterized all through this movie, I don't get the sense that she should care all that much. Like, because especially now, with the situation that it's in at the end, where it's like Michelle Yeoh comes over and it's like, alright, well, I guess I'm going to train you now. Like, because we need something to fight the witch. Like, that idea, I don't think that there's enough there to be like, well, we gotta tell this story deeper. And I think that's kind of like, I don't care about anything further beyond this point. Because ultimately, everything is destined for failure for this character. At the end of the day, she's gonna try and fight the wizard again, if that's where this is going. Unless they're going with, like, this is an alternate timeline where it's like she's gonna go fight the wizard. But no, it's not even that, because the whole thing is Glinda's memory. Like, it's because she's telling the story in Munchkinland to everyone. I think it's one of those things where it's like, why do they break it up? Like, I don't think, like, I know why. It's because the second half will make money now, because people will see the first half and be like, oh shit, that's really good, let's go see the second half. So even if the second half is not as good, it's still going to make back a ton of money. I think this movie's going to break $1 billion, but we'll see. I just feel like this is kind of a moment where I'm like, the worst part is ending it with to be continued, because I'm like, but do I want to see more? Like, this is not a moment like, what's it called? Like, what was the other one last year around this time? Oh, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Where it's like, we didn't get his full descent into being that. We saw the first steps where it's like, if his turn to being the President Snow that we know in the Hunger Games books, the Hunger Games movies, before, like, 60 years later, if this is the first steps on that path, then okay, fine. Like, I want to see the continuing on those steps. I don't think there's anything too much further beyond this to be like, well, this is what we need to see next. I don't think we really need to see any more than this. Like, I got it. I got what we're going for here. I see where we're ending. I totally understand what we're going for. I understand all of that. So I don't know. I would be fine if we just didn't get a part 2, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Because I feel like this is the optimal way to end this movie. It's to end it off here with this. She has become the Wicked Witch. We've answered the question positive at the beginning of the movie. We don't need anything further. But I really enjoyed it. I think the musical numbers are great. I think they're very well choreographed. I think this is going to be the big issue this year. Is it's going to be Dune versus this for the technical categories, for production design, for visual effects. I think Dune takes home visual effects, but production design, I can see this edging it out. It's just great. I really enjoy this movie, despite what I was just saying. This is a 5. Go see it on a big screen. It deserves your time and your attention. But we'll wrap up there for today. Tomorrow morning we have a review of a new show on Amazon Prime. Tomorrow evening we have nothing. Friday morning we'll be talking about Emilia Perez for real this time. Friday evening we'll be talking about Gladiator 2. And, yeah, I feel like there's one other thing that I'm forgetting. But yeah, we'll be back with all that as it happens. So until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.